Thank you very much, Ryan. And everybody, I promise you, I do not have that same sweater on for the 3 days. So, good morning, everybody. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Wade Gale from BNY Mellon is going to try and lead you again through this process. It's usually be a short process on session on Friday. Usually finishes within the first hour. So some of the things we're just going to look at today is the multifamily changes and conversion, just going to keep you abreast what needs to be done in that space. Then we're going to have the document custodian transfers request, because we just always believe we need to put this in because there's always transfers going on. If there's a custodian, a lot of times custodian are changing, so you have to get your portfolio over to a new custodian. So you just want to keep that in your mind how that's done. And then, of course, we always have to have our resources. These are the guide you can go to get more information to do your process. And of course, you have the team to call if you're not clear on and everything. So that's what our agenda looks like today. Multifamily changes and conversions. We just want to talk about these so everybody's aware. Multifamily conversion types. We're going to look at mortgage modifications and mortgage increase / decrease. And I can tell you, we can have if anybody wants to chime in when we say anything, we're always willing to listen and we entertain your expertise, because you say something and you're helping the others. So just be aware of that. Let's talk about conversion. A conversion pool will convert to the permanent loan upon completion of the construction period and when the final construction loan draw is to be issued or delivered. Two ways to submit a multifamily conversion. Of course, you have the conventional method and you have the modernized method. All construction loans must be converted to a PN pool. Just remember that. All construction loans must be converted to a construction loan pool, which is PN. The multifamily changes and conversion. Type 3 conversion, of course, that's known as the conventional way, the conventional method, the type 3. And what's a type 3 conversion? A type 3 conversion is a submission of a PN pool with the manual return of the CLC's position, which issuance of the permanent loan security, that's a position, through the Federal Reserve Bank. Whoever holds or owns all the CLC must return the position to the Federal Reserve Bank for the cancellation so the project loan position can be issued and delivered. And everybody knows that, because a lot of times if you're doing a type 3, you will have to, if someone doesn't return the stuff, of course the Fed settlement team is going to reach out and say these must be returned before we can proceed with the process. So all those CLC must be returned to the position to the Fed for cancellation before we can proceed on a type 3. And of course, a type 3 is a conventional method of doing those conversions. Type 3 conversion requirements. So we have some requirement here. When must an issuer submit a type 3 conversion? If there isn't a final draw, if the issuer advances or funds are larger than the minimum security amount, if the final draw is less than the scheduled principal collected or loan commenced amortization. Issuers cannot request a type 3 conversion with a draw issuance in the same month. Everybody should know that. For example, if you issue a pool in April, you cannot convert in May. The system is not going to accept it. So it would have to, you must convert in May. I mean, you cannot do April. That's what I meant. So you cannot do the issue pool in May and then want to convert in May. You'd have to do that in June. So those are just some things you want to remember. Then the next type of conversion, of course, It's the type 5. And that's the modernization method. And I'm mentioning this because I think there's a poll coming up with a question on that. The types. There's the conventional, which is the type 3, and then the modernized method, which is the type 5. What is a type 5 conversion? A type 5 conversion is when the final draw and the PN conversion are submitted together for issuance. The final CLC is delivered for settlement, and 3 business days later, the CLC is automatically canceled when the PN delivered through the Fed for settlement. Whoever holds or owns all the CLC must return the position to the Fed for cancellation so the project loan position can be issued and delivered. And again, it's the same thing. We have to get certain things back to the Fed before we can do this. But this is a little tricky now because you're doing 2 pieces. You're doing the final draw, and also you're doing the PN. And then there's a difference in 3 days for the settlement of each piece. So you have to be careful when you send up in GeniNet. You're going to do the 1 piece first, make sure that piece passed the edit. Then you go in and set up the second portion of that pool, which is the PN. And these are some steps we want to share with you in terms of when you're doing the type 5 conversions. 1, issuer contact BNY Mellon to obtain the investor of record for the CL pool. And of course, you usually contact, most people usually call or send an email to jenmay1@BNY Mellon, and that usually have either Yvonne Moner attention to it, and now we have Narita Bradshaw in the group. So once they get that information, they'll do their due diligence and they'll send out the necessary information that you requested. Number 2, BNY Mellon contacts the Fed for dealer investor detail, forward information to the issuer. 3, final draw / PN conversion type 5 submission is received by BNY Mellon. BNY Mellon contact the Fed to send a broadcast message to dealer investor regarding the conversion. And the CL conversion is approved for issuance and settlements. So that's basically what happens in that space for the type 5. Multifamily modifications, just some more information here, just first so we can wrap up the multifamily training on that. We have must contact Ginnie Mae. Issuer approval is required and must be a manual pool submission for modification. Now for the increase / decrease mortgage amount. And if we have Jennifer or Michelle on the call and they want to add anything, don't be, and I see Michelle is on, so don't be afraid to say, Wade, shut up, give me a minute so I can give you more color on anything. So Michelle and Jennifer, you're most invited to join us if you want to give any more information. Increase / decrease mortgage amount. Contact BNY Mellon for system perimeters. Can be done through MFPDM or GeniNet for most submissions. Construction loan pools in GeniNet must remain in GeniNet. HUD's approval for mortgage increase / decrease is required, and investor acknowledgement may be required. So those are some of the things you just want to be aware of if you're doing that. For the multifamily training guide, you can find full information. So we also give you the user manual to look through to help you with some of those things. Michelle, I hear you. Good morning. Oh, I thought you were coming in, Michelle. My bad.
Says unmute. They can hear me?
I can hear you, Michelle. Michelle, you might have to unmute yourself first. I want to try and get Michelle on if she has something to say before I get into the poll. She's typing. She says she's having issues with their microphone and I'm in the office. Okay, so Michelle, we're gonna be still around if you need to, if everything works out and you can get in. We're here for you. Okay? So let's get into our poll. And I think we might have like 3 questions. So Ryan and team, if you're ready, you can shoot our first question. Okay, the first question is, there are 4 types of there are 4 ways to submit a multifamily conversion. And Wade Gale just went through this on a couple of slides ahead. How many? So is this there are 4 ways? Is it true? Or is this a false statement? Or I can't be bothered, I won't vote. I would rather you vote. 19 people, and we have 2 more people join in on the true question. Okay, the answer is 80% of us got it. It's actually false. The answer is false. For that, there's a type 5 and of course the type 3. Next question, please. Type 3 conversion is known as the draw method, the conventional method, the modernized method. Which method is that? I talked about it on slide 6. Type 3 conversion is known as the draw method, convention method, and modernized method. The answer is actually the conventional method. Don't know if a draw method, those 2 people, I mean, it's Friday, maybe they're just pranking me. Hey, modernization method, no, that would be the type 5. So the answer is actually is to conventional method, 87%. Is there a third question in our poll? Sure. For an increase/decrease mortgage amount, HUD's approval for the mortgage increase amount is required. True or false? Yes, and that answer is actually true. For increase/decrease mortgage amount, the HUD approval for the mortgage increase/decrease is required. Thank you, everybody, for participating in our poll. Much appreciated. Michelle, are you able to get in?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I had to switch from Internet Explorer. It automatically at work makes us go to Internet Explorer, and I am now on what is this, Chrome. So I missed, part of it. So I'm sorry. But Are there any questions or clarifications? And I
Yes,
will
that's
say, no, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say to everyone that everything that we just covered, there are definitely exceptions to these rules, and some of you probably have encountered exceptions to these rules, um, especially about mortgage increase, decrease, and modifications. But no, I just see some people are writing, so I'm just waiting on the question. But in general, yes, the type 3, type 5 conversions. Please always remember when a type 5 conversion, you must submit your final CLC and your PN at the same time. Okay, wait, we can go ahead, but I'll monitor the chat, and if anyone has any
that's correct,
questions,
Michelle.
you can
Because the way it
you
works
can
in the GenNet world, the system is looking for both in the type 5. You can't just submit one and go. It's looking for both the sale and the appeal at the same time to submit to the custodian. Yes.
yes.
Okay, Michelle, if there's anything else while we're going through the document custodian transfer, we'll entertain you back on the line and you can go through it. We appreciate your time.
No, of course. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. As I'd mentioned earlier when we started, we usually try to slip in a piece on document custodian transfer. And the reason for this is always a hot topic. There are always issuer transfers. Sometimes there's those document custodian transfer. Right now, there are 3 document custodian that are, I don't know if they're just getting out of the business or what's happening, but there are 3 right now. So people are changing, taking away their portfolio from those custodian and put in other places. So I just always think it's always important just to remind people how this process is done and what it entails. I know at times people find the document custodian process a little bit cumbersome. And I can tell you, I think it is. And I know we have looked at this and Jen, we have looked at this. And I know they're looking at to change the process somehow. So that will come. Don't know the time frame, but it's in the works. So document custodian transfer requests. So we're just gonna look at this and talk about it if this is something you will do or have done. We're gonna look at the type of transfers, GenNet, overview of the document custodian transfer, the request process, and just some quick tips on the process. Document custodian transfer requests. All document custodian transfer requests are submitted via GenNet. This is a GenNet-centric process right now. There are 4 types of document custodian transfer requests. 1, you have the complete document custodian transfer. You have the partial document custodian transfer. You have the complete document transfer merger, and you have the partial document custodian merger. Complete and partial transfer requests, recertification of the transfer pools are due 12 months from the effective date of transfer. So if you did a complete and a partial transfer request, those pools are going to need to be recertified within 12 months of the effective date of transfer. So just remember that. And for complete and partial merger requests, do not require new recertification of the affected transfer pools. The status of the pre-merger will remain the same. So the important thing here, once issued submit the transfer request, the new document custodian must certify the pending transfer request prior to the specified effective date of transfer date. The reason why I actually had that there, because a lot of times transfers are done, the custodian is not aware that a transfer was sent out. So they actually, and they would go in and accept the transfer at a later date. But the issuer had put a transfer date of 12/9, just going to use today as the date, 12/9, and they went in on 12/11 or 12/10 and accept that transfer. What happens? The process goes through, but when the information comes to do their check on the Ginnie Mae's system and on the back end, it rejects that transaction saying the transfer date has passed. So the issuer gets a notification saying that failed, and they would have to go in and do it again. So we just want to be careful when you're setting up these on the issuer side. Make sure you coordinate with your custodian, the new custodian, when the transfer date is in effect. And again, custodians are not going to do it. I've spoken to a couple of them over the years, or they like to make sure they have the documentation from the old custodian, so they have that information so they can do their due diligence check that way. So if you have to send them the boxes with all the information, they like to have that there before they can start the process. So just be careful of that. So you put a reasonable date so they're aware of it. I don't think people want to do a blindside approval on documentation that they don't have. So coordinate that with your custodian, the new custodian, when you're doing the document custodian transfer. And this screen just shows you what happens at a document custodian space and where you'll go to do the transfer. This is actually host communication screen. And we have a short video of what happens in that space. It's going to be like a voiceover as the video plays. Don't know who those people are. So we're going to go into My Ginnie Mae. We're going to select GennieNet. On the GennieNet, we're going to select data entry / review. We're going to select certification. On the certifications, we're going to select common. Then we're going to select document custodian transfer. On that screen, we're going to just select new. Then it shows the 4 transfers. We have complete, partial transfer, complete merger, and partial merger. We're going to just create a simple information on complete. We're doing partial. A person changed up on me. So partial, that means we're sending some of our pools to a new custodian, and we're keeping some of those pools that we're not changing. So we're filling out the form. We're selecting the custodian. And then we're going to add the pool numbers. We're just doing this manually. You add the pool numbers, add. And of course, you can actually do an import for this. You don't have to sit there and add manual pools. If there's tons of pool numbers, you can create an import file with just this 6-digit pool number and do the import that way. The reason why we have existing there, because we're doing a partial. So we're saying we have pools other place, other custodian, or with the same custodian. So we're not sending all the pools over. So that's why we're using the same custodian as the existing custodian also, because we're just sending a portion of those pools to the new custodian, and then we're leaving some with the existing custodian. So that's why it looks like that as a partial. So we're adding the pools that we're keeping with the existing custodian. And again, this can be imported. It doesn't have to be done in a manual form. So once this information is in, we're going to save the record. Record saved. So that's our partial information. And assuming the person is going to right now to reports to print the form. There's a 11.7, 11.15 prints, but this does not change what's on your master agreement. If this is going to be a new custodian, of course, you'll have to make sure you have submitted and created a 11.7.15 form that was also approved by the new custodian. So we're just going to print the form to tell you what it looks like in the GenMA space, GenNet space, I should say. And if you use GenNet, everybody's used to this way of printing their documents, so you have to wait some time before the status change. So this is what, thank God we don't have this in MFPDM. This is going, so that's progress, I think. So let's wait until that status change before we can actually generate that 11.7, 11.15 form that we're looking for. Process that allows us to generate the form when that comes in. And this is the form coming up right now. That's the form itself showing the new custodian and all the necessary information that was put on the form. And then it has some attachments. It's going to tell you which pools are going to the new custodian. And then it have the pool listing, part 2. This is the test. These are the existing pools, existing custodian, new custodian. So these are the pools that are going to the new custodian. And then there's another section of lists, tell you the ones that are remaining. And then have that pool list. The custodian does get this list, and I'm assuming you will send this information to them before they go in and do the certification, because they don't want to be doing things blindly and say these are the pools that I'm getting. Actually, I said it the wrong way. This is a new list. This is a list that's going to the new custodian. The first listing was the existing list that's remaining with the existing custodian. So this is a new custodian getting that list. So that was just a quick overview of document custodian transfer. Thank you very much. Yes, just some more, we have some more tips on this, so just want to go through some of this before we, again, for document custodian transfer on merger, the issuer is required to submit a complete pool list. For partial document custodian transfer, the issuer is required to submit a complete list of the pools being transferred, as well as the pool listed for existing document custodian. And this is where the problem usually happens. And this is when users usually call us and want us to make the decision. What am I doing? Am I supposed to be doing a partial or a complete? We at BNY Mellon, we can guide you. We can tell you what should happen, but we can't tell you what. We want you to tell us what you're doing, and then we can fill in the blanks. We don't want to say, oh, this sounds like a partial. And you went and did a partial, and then later you tell us, oh, we should have done a complete. Because what had happened, what that means there has to be a reversal somewhere. Sometime Jenny may might say, BNY Mellon, can you reverse this behind the back end? So that becomes a task for us. So if you're not too sure, you can always call us. We can guide you and how it's done, but we don't want to be the one to say, this is supposed to be a partial or this is supposed to be a complete. We want you to tell us that. Then we can give you our direction on how the process is done. Because the thing is, if you're supposed to do a partial and you went and did a complete, if you did a complete from one custodian to the next, that means every one of your pools are going to that new custodian. And that might not what you want to do. So you just want to be careful. And also when you're creating your existing pool list, make sure the pools that you have in those lists do belong to that existing custodian and not is there's a mix up. You're putting it in custodian 1, 2, 3, but it should be in custodian 2, 3, 4. Because what's going to happen, there are due diligence check on the back end on Genomate system. And if these pool numbers don't belong to that custodian, there's going to be a error report that push out, and it's going to go back to you that these pools do not belong to this custodian according to what Genomate has on their system. So you just have to be careful when you're doing those things. The issuer should enter an effective date of transfer as a business day of the month at least 3 days past the current date and not more than 6 months past the current date. So you're doing one today, you cannot put in a transfer date for tomorrow if it was a business day. So it would have to be 3 days from today. And that is what I mean. You at that point, you'd have to make sure your custodian is in line with that. We're transferring on the 13th. Are you going to be able to get these pools, review all your documentation and certify by the 13th? Because if they said if they do this on the 14th, then there's going to be a rejection on the Genomate system saying the transfer date has passed. And that puts the effort back on the issuer. You'd have to go in to that transaction, edit, change the date, put in a new transfer date, and resubmit. So you want to make sure you coordinate that very well with your document custodian, the new document custodian. And I had said earlier, most of them might not do the transfer because they want to see the actual documents. And that makes sense to me. I don't want to do a blind transfer and I don't have the physical form documents that I'm supposed to get. They'll see a pool list, but make sure they have all the necessary things. And of course, all that stuff is done outside of the Genet space. If a pool is transferred with a final certification pending, then when the new issuer completes the pending final certification, that certification will close out both pieces of the final cert and also the pending recertification. So that's, just to read that again. If a pool is transferred with a final certification pending, that means the final certification has not commenced, then when the new issuer completes the pending final certs, then the certification will close out both open final certs and recertification. So once the transfer happens and you do the final certs, it will also close out the recert. So that will take care of that as that part. And e-notification of approval of rejection is sent to the issuer and new document custodian. So look out for that. That still goes out saying there's a rejection, and that rejection actually comes from the Genomate back-end mainframe system. And of course, we do get a report in the morning if there's a transfer transaction saying that this went well or there are rejection. And also pools get rejected too if they're terminated. So it don't make sense to put in a terminated pool in the listing, because those will be rejected on the Genomate back end side of it, because there's no pool, there's no validation to do. The pool is already terminated. Pool listing may be imported or key entered directly into Genet. And I assume if it's a large amount of pools, I wouldn't sit there and want to key them in. Oh, no, sorry. Wade Gale might want to do it because that's Wade Gale. Wade Gale think differently sometimes from others, but I would not encourage it. It's a 6-digit file. You can, if you're used to Notepad, you can just go into Notepad and create the 6-digit pool number. You don't need the issue type or the or the pool type or the issue type or pool type. You don't need that. You just need the 6-digit number AB1234. Put it in Notepad, save it, import it, make sure it's the correct custodian information for those pools. If you're doing an existing and you have 4 custodian, that means you'll have to upload 4 different pool files, and you want to make sure all of those pool files that you're uploading does belong to the correct custodian. There is another poll. Oh, it sounds like it's an election time. So let's get into the other poll. Okay, complete and partial merger requests do not require a new recertification of the effective transfer pools. The status of the pools pre-merger will remain the same. Is this true or is it a false statement? We can't make up our mind here. Wow. What? Complete and partial merger requests do not require a recertification of the affected pool transfers pools. The status of the pools pre-merger will remain the same. It's a fight. Okay, I said this on slide 15. Complete and partial merger requests do not require a new recertification of the affected pools. That's the status of the pool pre-merger will remain the same. That's what I said on slide 16. I'm going to read the question again, or the statement again. Complete and private and partial merger requests do not require a new recertification of the affected transfer pool. The status of the pools pre-merger will remain the same. I'm just reading that to see if anybody will change their mind. The answer is actually true. 78%, yes. The ones who did false, I'll wait until you change it. And then I'll celebrate. I'm jumping in the room right now, actually. Celebrate with my hands in the air. And I'm just doing things like I just don't care. So it's 92. The answer is actually true. So yes, that's a true statement. Once you do the merger, the status of the pools will not change. It's not going to require you to do any recertification at all. Next question, please. How many types of document custodian transfer requests are available? We have 6, we have 3, we have 4. What is the correct answer? We have 6, we have 3, we have 4. And on that same slide, slide 15, I mentioned there how many there were. So like the ones with 4 is leading the way. 10% says 6, and we have 36% says 3. And I'm going to go back to my overview statement, and I'm going to read something. All document custodian transfer requests are submitted via GennyNet. 4 types of document custodian transfer requests. There are complete document custodian transfer, there are partial document custodian transfer, there are complete document custodian merger, and there are partial document custodian merger. And did I convince anybody? It says 4 types of document custodian transfer. So the answer is actually 4. 92%. Appreciate. I need to speak to those two people that have that 8%. What were they looking at? But we'll talk about that. Let's have the third question, please. Currently, all document custodian transfer or merger are processed via IPMS, MFPDM, JennyNet. And the answer, I don't think anyone would get this wrong. Unless anyone put IPMS and MFPDM, they just want to pull my legs. But thank you. The answer is actually JennyNet. Document custodian transfer right now can only be done in JennyNet. I'm sure that will change later because, JennyNet is set. It's getting ready to ride in the sunset. So JennyNet will become an afterthought soon. And I'm tearing up. That was my baby. But that's life. So thank you very much for your participation in the poll questions. Much appreciated.
Wade.
And Michelle,
hey Wade,
yes,
you've
ma'am?
got a hand raised.
Okay, there's any question for that person? I can't
Oh,
see
I
the
think it
hand
was
raised.
Sasha. Sasha, did you take your hand down? Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Okay.
Is Sasha is asking about about Starbucks, but that's another question. Yes, yes,
Right.
yes, Michelle.
Well, then
Yeah,
that raised hand was about buying Starbucks. Oh, he says no wait. I'm sorry, no wait.
Does he have a question? Oh, okay. And Wade, I also have some clarifications.
Sure, Michelle.
I'm just waiting on Sasha's question. So, okay. I'll start with Sasha's question. Yeah, there's still construction loans in JennyNet. And when we're close to retiring JennyNet, it is the plan that it will be transferred into MFPDM to convert the pool. But we don't have a date as of yet. And your pool will probably convert out of JennyNet. No. If a pool starts in JennyNet, it continues in JennyNet, it will convert in JennyNet. If a pool starts as a manual pool, the CLCs will continue to be manual submissions, and you will convert manually. If a pool begins in MFPDM, you get the deal. So yes, but we do have we have actually one of our USDA issuers, and you have to understand the USDA issuers used to do all manual pools, and they got a couple of JennyNet pools in there, but they essentially skipped JennyNet to go to MFPDM, and we do have several issuers who they have absolutely no pools in JennyNet anymore, but then we do have, and unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we have many long-term construction loans that are still in JennyNet. So, any questions on that before I go to clarifications on mergers? Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to reiterate, there are two processes that Ginnie Mae, not that we don't take your word, issuers, but we actually require documentation from the Secretary of State. And the first one is going to be on name changes. Anytime you have a name change to your organization, Ginnie Mae does not just automatically approve a name change. We need to have the documentation from the Secretary of State where that firm is registered. The next one would be for mergers versus acquisitions. As you can tell, well, I don't know if you know this, but mergers, the fee structure for mergers, very different. And also the process on the back end regarding recertification, very different for mergers versus asset sales versus acquisitions. So Ginnie Mae requires the contract between issuers. And if you say it's a merger, we will need the documentation from the Secretary of State that says merger. So I just wanted to clarify that. Any other questions? Okay, Wade. Letitia. I don't know. Wade, giving it back to Wade, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, that was my 2 cents for this Friday morning. But I just wanted to do some recap of some of the stuff that we talked about so we are on the same page. Of course, for where this was mostly about MFPDM, but we're doing MFPDM in the multifamily space. We have to also mention GenNet. So we always say, if you start your pools in MFPDM, the entire pool life cycle goes through MFPDM. Currently, there are pools that were initially done in GenNet. So those life cycle, we're going to process them, do the process via GenNet. So you just want to keep that in mind. There are times that, and Michelle and we have talked about this sometime, because of some of the nuances in certain things, we might have to send a pool via manual, or something we might say this one works through GenNet, so let's make this pool go through GenNet. So there are some of those things that happen sometime, but Jen May is saying if you're doing an initial pool, it's MFPDM. If a pool is actually going through its stages, that pool is already in GenNet and should finish the life cycle there. And one thing I've been mentioning all 3 sessions is master agreement. We're in that master agreement renewals space. So if you're in the process of doing it, try and get it done ASAP. Everybody knows in our office, in your office, and also in Jen May's office, it's almost Christmas time. We're not going to find everybody in place. It's going to be a skeleton time between now. So if you need to get those authorized people to sign off on your master agreement data and submit them to us so they can be finalized, make sure you get that done. You don't want to get it, and I keep on saying this, you don't want to get this started on December 29th or the 28th. Might not be pretty, because if the start of January 1, there's no renewal, guess what? You as an issuer would have to go in and do this master agreement stuff all with initial submission. And I know for multifamily users, you don't only submit, you submit tons sometime of 11720 and 11709. So do you really want to go start January 1 creating those things? So try and get your master agreement documents in time as soon as possible. It ends on the 31st, and I don't think Genma is willing to give waivers this year. So you just want to get that going. And of course,
Hey,
we want to talk about
I'm sorry,
commitment.
Wade, before
Make sure
you
you have your proper
transition,
commitment. You're doing your
hey,
pools.
Wade,
Check
it's
that amount
Letitia.
to the pool amount you're doing. Pool numbers. Make sure you request your pool numbers. You don't want to just make up pool numbers because those will get rejected. And if they get rejected, what that does, it prevents you from meeting your deadlines or some of the expectation that the investors are hoping that they'll get their pool at a certain time. The same thing with commitment. That could affect how you deliver your pool because once you don't have enough commitment, we're going to GenMA and saying this person doesn't have enough commitment. GenMA have to contact you and saying this needs to be updated. So you have to submit wire with new amounts. That could prevent the date you have set for to your investors. So those are things that are very critical. So make sure those little things are done before you start doing your pool. Commitment authority, pool numbers. Make sure you have all of those in place. And of course, make sure your master agreements are there. And
Hey, Wade.
I know everybody right now, we're in a new world of soft tokens. So be familiar with, there's a RSA soft token or QRC out there. Get familiar with that. If you have to request a new RSA token for a new employee, make sure you're familiar with the steps. Make sure you're familiar with what happens, how you go about doing that process, getting on board with the soft token. So those are things you just want to pay attention to. And also make sure you read the user manual. The org admins, make sure you're, oh, wait, hold on. Oh,
Wade, it's Letitia.
sorry.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, John. Letitia, you can go, please. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Wade, just to add, I wanted to
I just
tack
see the
on.
weekend, okay?
I wanted to tack on to the conversation about master agreements. I'm not sure that I heard you mention it, but folks, you need to make sure that the names that are listed on the
Letitia?
master agreements, if you're making updates, that they match the username that the user has
Letitia, you're
used
on.
in My Jenny May. I don't think Wade can hear me.
I can't hear her.
Well, that's funny. At least we can hear him.
Letitia, keep going.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to remind folks, if you are making any changes to those master agreements, it's very important that the username for the user in My Jenny May that they use to create that My Jenny May account, that is the name that needs to be listed on that 11702. A disconnect between those two will result in the RSA soft token not being usable, and they will not be able to transact business in Jenny May systems. So please make sure if you're adding someone to that 11702 that you have double checked for the username that they registered their My Jenny May account using. Any change, whether it's adding a middle initial, removing a middle initial, using John instead of Jonathan, is going to cause those transactions to fail. So please make sure that you are making that alignment if you're updating your master agreements. Thank you. See if we can get Wade back. Hey, Ryan, am I seeing correctly that it looks like Wade's microphone is disconnected? Or is he just on mute? Oh, nope, he's just on mute.
I just unmuted him. Wade, are you able to hear us?
Letitia, are we at the end?
I think we are.
Okay.
Let me double
I was just
check.
going to
Maribel,
address,
do you have audio?